Hey everyone, welcome back. Hi Octane. I am your host Bob, and we're back, like I said, and well, let's do it. Welcome, return viewers, new viewers. Welcome. This is High Octane, as I said. And I am your host, Bob. First and foremost, I want to apologize for last week. My Wi-Fi was not really the greatest at such a short prep time. I guess I had literally just walked in the door of my new place, hadn't set anything up yet, so it wasn't quite running properly. Hopefully, it'll run right now. It's about 2 feet away from me. It was about 15 feet away from me last week. So hopefully I won't have any issues with the Wi-Fi. Like I said, hopefully. So we shall see. Again, another week, another episode. I have another list that we're going to go through. This one's kind of long. So I don't know if I'll have enough time to go through it all, but we shall see. But that's the plan for the week. Hopefully you guys enjoy that. And first off, before we get to the list, we're gonna do some what am I drinking? Sorry, I had a couple technical difficulties there, but I got it done. What am I drinking this week? I am drinking what I was going to be drinking last week. It is Evan Williams 1783. It is a small batch bourbon out of Kentucky. I know Evan Williams isn't the most well known, isn't the best, blah, blah, blah. But this stuff's really good for the money. It's 90 proof. I paid $16 for it. And, it's actually really good. Aged in white oak, extra aged, I should say. But yeah, it's really good. It's better than the basic bitch Evan Williams. Good with Coke. I don't know. I drink it straight. If you like it with Coke, great. I just drink it by itself. That's that good to me. So I drink it straight. That's what's going on here. Cheers, and don't drink and drive. All right. Before I get into the list, I just want to let you guys know that this morning started off very shitty. I woke up at 4:45, took a shower, walked down to the car to leave for work, and I start the car, and the low tire pressure sensor is lit up, or the low tire pressure light is lit up, and it said my left rear was at 0 psi. So I open the car door back up, look at the left rear tire. It is perfectly fine. But I did notice a nail laying on the ground right in front of it. So I was like, that's kind of weird. Picked the nail up, threw it in the grass, went on about my merry way. And then I stopped at a gas station right up the road from my apartment just to be sure. Checked it. It was perfectly fine. And then I walked around the right side of the car, and lo and behold, it's the right rear tire that's completely flat on the ground. So I'm like, holy crap. I try to go pump it up with air, and the pump wouldn't pump it up like at all. It wouldn't do anything. Compressor running, you could hear air coming out of it. Nothing. No air would go in the tire. So needless to say, I was pretty pissed. Drove it across the street to Discount Tire, hoping they could still fix it. They could not, because I had punctured the sidewall driving it flat. So yeah, had to buy a new tire. $308 later, new tire. It's sitting over there right now. So I have to walk after I get done talking to you guys, pick it up. So that was my morning and my rush to get here to get started on time. And I actually did. I'm proud of myself for starting on time with all that going on. But that was my little side rant for a moment. We're going to get into it now. Let me share the screen real quick. If you've seen the title of the episode, you already know what I'm going to be talking about. So here we go. Greatest hypercars of all time. Now, I know hypercars are kind of silly to talk about because literally none of us can afford them. like none of us will ever be able to afford them unless we hit the lottery or unless you have a really good job. But let's be real, if you have a really good job, you're probably not listening to me right now. I mean, I wouldn't mind, some people that have really nice jobs watching me talk shit about goofy nonsense, but I doubt any of them are. I'm not even sure Andy watched the episode that he did with me. So, but we're going to move right on. The first one we're going to talk about, I don't know how this list actually works. All right. Well, there's apparently 60 photos in this list. So the first one is the Porsche 959 from 1986. I don't mind this car, actually. I'm not a huge Porsche fan, as I've mentioned on this podcast more than one occasion. Chris, I had a I don't know how big of a nail in the tire, but it was sticking out of the tire about a good quarter of an inch, so it wasn't hard for me to find. So yeah, there's that. It was a nail. I don't know how long. It was probably, if it was the same nail I found in front of the tire, it was probably 2.5, 3 inch long nail. And obviously, driving on it, yeah, I know it bugged the hell out of me. I had to call into work. I went in 3 hours late. It pissed me off. So tomorrow and Friday, I'm going to work over if they'll allow it, just to make up to the time. But yeah, Porsche 928. Yeah, Porsche 928 wasn't bad, but we're talking about hypercars, and I don't necessarily know that I would consider the 959 a hypercar. I would probably more keep it in the realm of a supercar, but they call it one, so we're just going to go with it. For the time, the car was stupid fast, 197 miles an hour, super low production. They only made 337 of them, hence probably why I've never seen one in person, partly because of the value of them now and the super low number that they were built in. But yeah, I like it. It's a nice car. I personally wouldn't consider this a hypercar. Like I said, I would probably keep it more in the supercar realm, with the Countach and whatever the Ferrari equivalent is, a Testarossa, maybe something like that. But yeah, I do like it, but I wouldn't consider this a hypercar. It's pretty much a 911 souped up, made to look a little bit different in the rear, had a bigger motor, twin turbo, whatever. Flat six is what they always use. But yeah, it's a cool car. For being a Porsche, like I said, all you guys know I don't like Porsche, but yeah, this one's actually not too bad. Okay, moving on. Ferrari F40. Everyone knows that I love this car. I don't like it looks wise as much as the F50, but this car outperformed the F50 by like leaps and bounds. And this car was technologically advanced like crazy for the time. I think it was one of the first cars to incorporate carbon fiber in the body. I think it was the first car to go over 200 miles an hour, if I'm not. Yeah, first production car capable of topping 200 miles an hour. Had a twin turbo, 485 horsepower V8. The car is insane. Like it's ridiculous. It could be pink. I don't care. I would drive it. I don't care what color it is. I would drive the absolute shit out of an F40. I still don't know that I would call it a hypercar though. Maybe for the day it would be considered a hypercar because you had your supercars, your super sports cars, whatever the hell you want to call them. Maybe for the day it could be considered a hypercar, but in today's standards, probably not. I guess I need to reverse my way of thinking about 30 years. Maybe these first couple could be considered hypercars. But yeah, this is the last car that Enzo Ferrari signed off on. Yeah, contextually, yes, absolutely. I agree with you, Chris. Yeah, last car Enzo himself signed off on. So you can thank him for the F40. So thank you, Enzo. It's a beautiful car. All right, the Roof CTR. Now, if any of you don't know what a roof is, and it is pronounced roof, they are a company that takes Porsches, and they are an aftermarket modification company. They just take stock Porsches and they modify them, they upgrade them. They make them lighter, they upgrade the suspension, the wheels, the motor, the transmission. They pretty much touch just about the entire vehicle in some way or another They're kind of like a Hennessy or a Celine or what are some other ones that do that shit? Lingenfelter, Callaway, some of that stuff. Some of my favorite cars in GT. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. In Gran Turismo 3, these cars were really, really good. And, yeah, I remember using them in that too. Actually, yeah. So this car in 1987 could hit 211 miles an hour, which was incredibly insane. 3.6 to 62. I don't know why it's 62, but maybe because of kilometers. I don't know. 476 horsepower in 87 was unheard of. So, I mean, this car is insane. And for the time, yeah, hypercar status for sure. Not the best looking vehicle in my opinion. I do like the whale tail spoiler. But it's just a modified Porsche, and my opinion. Obviously, we've already talked about two in this list. But yeah, it handled extremely well. Super light, especially for just a flat six under the hood. I mean, almost 500 horsepower and 87. That's unheard of. So kudos to Roof. Oh, there's one that you guys probably haven't heard of. Chris, I know you have. Vector W8, 1989. This was an American brand. It wasn't around super long. It was very, very not well known at all. Um, I don't really know a whole lot about the company. I do know the W8 and the W12. Um, but like I said, I don't have a lot of knowledge in my brain about these things. The claimed statistics for this car in 1989 were 634 horsepower and 242 miles an hour. Now, I don't believe the second one because 241 wasn't achieved until the mid 90s by the McLaren F1. This is 1989. Now, I know that the Sledgehammer Corvette did. How fast did that damn car go? It went ungodly speed, but it was an aftermarket modified Corvette, had like 900 horsepower, and yeah, it actually did hit 200 and I can't even remember. It was ungodly what it did, but like I said, that wasn't a stock a Chevrolet manufactured Corvette. It was an aftermarket modified car. So 242, I don't believe 634 horsepower is, I guess, achievable in 1989. Chris, it is a cool car. I like the W12 better, but this one is still cool. It's a very futuristic vehicle. Oh, and by the way, if I sound echoey, I'm sorry. I don't have enough furniture to fill up the space that I've rented. So if it's echoey, I apologize. I can hear it. I don't know if you guys can, but you're just gonna have to get over it for now. So, but to get back to this very futuristic car. Yeah, it's the Vector W8. I think it's pretty cool. I do want to say it was in some of the older GT games. Nah, don't quote me on that, but yeah, it's a pretty cool car. Back then, hypercar would probably be proper, especially with the numbers that he claimed to be producing in this car. Bugatti EB110. You can't deny that this is probably the first modern legit hypercar. It's not the best looking vehicle, but I do like it. I've used this in video games as well. It's got a big V12, quad turbo, yeah, 558 horsepower in standard form, if you want to even call it that, and then Super Sport Geiss 612 claimed could hit 216 in 1991. That's fast. That's very, very fast. Some of the modern day, 6, 7, 800 horsepower cars don't even go that fast. So that's pretty good in 1991. Now everybody knows that Bugatti has, it's been around for over 100 years. Believe it or not, it has. It's changed hands. I don't even know how many times. And most recently, Volkswagen owned it for the longest time, and then they very recently just sold it to Rimac. And it's actually kind of funny because Volkswagen, who owns Audi, Lamborghini, all kinds of other companies. They own Porsche, and Porsche owns Rimac, who now owns Bugatti. So Volkswagen still essentially owns Bugatti, even though they sold it for $9 billion to Rimac. So the whole hierarchy and how it works is very strange. But basically, Volkswagen sold the company to Rimac for $9 billion, but still own part of those rights through multiple different automotive companies. It's kind of weird, but that's how I understand it. So I'm just trying to relay that to you guys. If I'm wrong, argue that fact with me. Hit me in the comments. Call me a dumbass. Do what you want to do. I might be wrong. Like I said, I'm not an expert in any of this kind of thing, but the reason these things are so rare and you've probably none of us have probably ever seen one is they only built 139 of these things before Bugatti went belly up in 95. So that's why not many of them are around because they didn't build many of them. So Hypercar, most certainly. Absolutely. Jaguar XC220. I 100% love this car. I always have. I always will. Um, I mean, it was kind of a piece of junk build wise, like quality wise. Like the Top Gear, Jeremy Clarkson from Top Gear did a hard launch in a drag race, and apparently the radio flew out and hit him in the balls, which is kind of funny. But anyway, the concept originally had a V12 and all-wheel drive, but I guess by the time it actually made production, the cost of that said V12 and the all-wheel drive were probably too costly, so they opted for a 3.5 liter twin turbo V6 and just rear-wheel drive. But uh, I mean, it still made almost 550 horsepower, and it did hit a claim like a confirmed 217 miles an hour. So for only a twin turbo V6, especially in 1992, which V6s didn't make a ton of power back then, 217 is insane. Like that's fast, fast, fast. They didn't build a ton, they didn't sell a ton, but I mean, it was the fastest production car in the world in 1992. So that's saying a lot. And Jaguars never owned that title since or before. So that's saying something for this car. If you could find one, if you can afford it, I would buy it because you can always screw down that radio a little bit tighter and have a really cool car. Now the wheels, I will say, are terrible, but other than that, cars kick ass. Um, I mean, come on, McLaren F1. What can what can't be said about this car? This car was literally the first of its kind. Had a center driving position with two seats on one seat on either side. Had these crazy dual hinged front pivoting weird doors. Um, had a BMW V12. 636 horsepower, 240 miles an hour. I mean, this car was insane. For 240 miles, 240 miles an hour out of just 636 horsepower. I know I say just, but that's not a ton in today's standards. The Bugatti had to have 1,000 horsepower to hit 200 and what did it fit? 252, I think, when it first broke that record. So almost 400 more horsepower just to go 12 miles an hour faster. So this car is saying something. Only 106 were made. Even fewer were made in LM form. They did make some racing cars. I mean, this car was absolutely insane. I guess we're going by year here, which is fine. This car is beautiful, well built. The engine bay was plated in gold, for fuck's sake. I mean, like legit gold. I guess for heat purposes. But I mean, it's at 106 including racing models. So that's not even 106 road going models. I guess they did like 6 racing models because I think you have to have at least 100 road going vehicles to be able to race them. I think. But this thing is absolutely crazy. Like, yeah, 100% cool car. I've never seen one in person, and I never expect to. I want to, obviously. Maybe if I end up in Dubai one of these days in the next 50 years, I mean, maybe if I live that long, Who knows? But yeah, it's a kick-ass car. No one can argue that. And if you want to try me. Ferrari F50. I mentioned this earlier. I knew that this car would be on the list. This is the predecessor for the F40 that I talked about a little bit ago. It has a naturally aspirated V12 this time. 349 were made. Ferrari always makes these flagship cars in limited numbers, and that's fine. That's why they're flagships. It only hit 202, which is only 1 mile an hour faster than the F40, which should have been at least, I think, at least 210. But it could hit 100 miles an hour in 8.5 seconds, had 520 horsepower V12. Had they slapped a couple turbos under the hood, attached to that V12, this thing could have been a serious contender. Could have been the Godfather, but whatever. They did what they did. It's a beautiful car, though. Beautiful. I think it looks far better than the F40. Didn't perform as well, but I think it looks way, 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 way better. So, successor, you're right. Predecessors comes, that's before. You're right. Successor, my bad. Yeah, beautiful vehicle, a hypercar for sure. Yeah, absolutely agreed. Screw friggin' ads. Pagani Zonda, absolute works of art. These cars are. They're not the most powerful. They're not the fastest. They are expensive as hell because of all the materials and all the work that goes into them. They're hand built. I want to say, other than the engine, I think everything is made in house. Horacio Pagani has literally taken art and automotive and just mashed them together, and he makes works of art. He really, really does. Now they use AMG engines from Mercedes, so obviously they're not made in house, but they're pretty highly modified. They're 7.3 liter V12s. This particular one makes 760 horsepower, which for 1999, that's a lot. Not many cars were making anywhere near that. Let's put it in perspective. The 99 Corvette, I think, made 345 horsepower. So that's saying a lot. That's more than double by a little bit, actually. But on the flip side, the top speed was only 185 miles an hour. So that's not overly impressive. I think my car will probably hit close to that, 455 horsepower. So not overly impressive. Like I said, it's not the fastest car on the planet, but they sound really, really good. They look really, really good. And the interiors are probably the most beautiful interiors of any kind of vehicle I've ever seen. Maybe not the early ones, but the later ones for sure. And there have been, I don't know how many different versions of the Zonda. I'm not going to even try to name them all. There have been so many different variations and whatever goofy iterations. There's been probably 10 or 12 of them. So I'm not going to get into them all. I don't have time for that. There's 60 photos on this list, so I don't want to dwell on any of these cars too long. The Ultima GTR. I don't know if you guys have heard of this vehicle. I know I have. It's pretty much a road-going race car. That's legit what it is. It's got that crazy closed cabin like in a race car. Super low, super light. Top like trim level package, has 1,000 horsepower Corvette V8 under the hood. That's ridiculously fast. It's ridiculously hard to drive. 231 miles an hour, 0 to 62 in 2.8 seconds. I think that was maybe a little bit later on. I don't know. As a Renault, and in '83 when they first came out, they had a Renault engine and gearbox. But obviously by 1999, that's when they were throwing down 1,000 horsepower V8s. Okay, yeah. Right then in 99, they were hitting 231. Wow, that's insane. At a curb weight of 2,178 pounds, just over a ton. So that's a light car with a lot of power. I don't know Price-wise, I have no idea what these things cost. I don't know about build quality, ride comfort, reliability. I don't know anything about it, but it is a Corvette V8, so reliability is probably decent. And if you baby it, probably decent gas mileage too. So anyway, Spiker is I want to say a Swedish automotive manufacturer. I don't know if you guys have heard of these, Chris. I bet you have. They're 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 cool. I like them. They're they're very different, obviously, as you can see. They're inspired by, I want to say, either boats or planes. I can't remember which one, but have an Audi derived 4.2 liter V8, twin turbo, around 200 miles an hour, convertible. They do coupes. Now the interior of these is also very, very pretty. They are also works of art on the inside. I'm kind of lukewarm on the exterior styling. The wheels are, they look like propellers. The steering wheel is kind of the same, along the same line. It looks more like like the steering wheel of a boat, if you will. I would not consider these hypercars. I would consider these more of like a super sports car. They don't make a ton of power. Like I said, they barely hit 200. They're not overly powerful. They're not crazy expensive like hypercars typically are. For 2000, I guess maybe it could be a supercar, but no, I would not consider this a hypercar at all. Cool car. Little quirky on the outside. Very, very nice on the inside, but definitely not hypercar to me. Lamborghini Murcielago, definitely not hypercar either. I like the Murcielago. It hung around for a very long time. I think it lasted like 12, 13 years, if I'm not mistaken. Had a giant V12, no turbos, no nothing, no nonsense. V12 all-wheel drive, basic, if you will, 580 horsepower, 206 miles an hour. And then in LP 640 trim, 211 miles an hour, around about 630 horsepower. And then the LP 670, I think it had around 660 horsepower. It hit 214. Later on, that happened later on, toward the end of the run. But cool. Like I said, it's a cool car. I always liked it. It was the successor for the Lamborghini Diablo, which was always a cool car. It hung around for a good amount of time too. But this car was really cool. I don't consider it a hypercar though. Supercar, yes. Hypercar, no. Ferrari Enzo, absolutely a hypercar, in my opinion. It made 670 horsepower. They only made 400 of them. Michael Schumacher was the original tester for this vehicle, as it is pretty much a road-going F1 vehicle. Had a 6-liter naturally aspirated V12. I think they came to market at about 600,000 to 650,000. Now you can't find them for less than $2 million, which I think is absolutely insane. But I mean, such low numbers, it's like one of the most sought after Ferraris ever built. 0 to 100 miles an hour in 6.6 seconds. That's kicking it, and a top speed of 220. I want to say that's Ferrari's like fastest top speed maybe ever. I could be wrong. I probably am. Some of these goofy hybrids that they're making now are insane. They're making like 1,000 horsepower. So they might be faster, but I mean, for 2002, this was absolutely fastest they had ever gone. It's a cool car. They kind of knocked off the McLaren F1 doors, but I'm not going to fault them for that because they're cool doors. It's a good looking car. I can't say anything bad about it. I've obviously never seen one in person, never driven one, of course. They sound incredible. They performed super good. So I'm not gonna say anything negative about the Enzo. Obviously, it has the namesake of Ferrari's original owner. So yeah, kick-ass car, definitely a hypercar. Screw your ad. Ascari KZ1. Now, I have heard of these. I don't know if you guys have. They're not very well known. They're not prevalent, if you will, in the industry. I don't even know where they're from. From this, they use a BMW 4.9 liter V8, only 507 horsepower. Not very powerful. Must be pretty lightweight. 0 to 62 in 3.7 seconds. Does hit 201. Okay, so later on, it had 634 horsepower. So it probably did, sub 3.5, 60, probably 210 miles an hour, maybe, if not more. It's not a bad looking car. I still wouldn't consider this a hypercar. I wouldn't. There are certain criteria I would imagine you have to be able to meet to be a hypercar, and I don't see this being one, meeting all of that criteria, which I obviously don't know what all that is, but just everything that I've just read and know about it. I know these things aren't crazy expensive. I don't consider it a hypercar. I don't even know if I would consider it a supercar. Maybe a super sports car, but I don't know. No, not a hypercar. Carrera GT. I'm lukewarm on this car. I know this is the car that Paul Walker was killed in. He was not driving; he was the passenger. But moving on. Giant V10, which was Porsche's first foray into anything bigger than a V or a flat six, if you will. They skipped right over a V8 and went to a giant 5.7 liter V10, which isn't actually that giant considering the Viper uses a 6.3 liter V10. Anyway, 5.7 liter V10 made over 600 horsepower, sounded really good, performed really good. It was fast, it was light. 205 miles an hour, 0 to 124 miles an hour in 9.25 seconds. Don't know why that shows that number. Like I said, I've seen one of these in person. It's a cool car. It's super low. It's super long. It's super wide. It's a kick-ass car. Definitely hypercar. Only 1,270 made, which probably a smart move considering they were like $400,000 brand new. So very expensive for Porsche, but it performed really, really well. And yeah. All right, Bristol Fighter T. We have heard of Bristol. We've talked about Bristol in the past. Not a hypercar, not at all. They only made 9 of them. Okay, I said 6.3 liter V10. I think that was the earlier Vipers. The later Vipers were an 8 liter V10. That's a giant V10. That's what this thing used. Much highly modified V10, if you will. I'm about to tell you the numbers. The T, there were only 9 made. 532 horsepower out of that V10, which isn't very good, actually. 210 miles an hour, though. That's actually pretty good. And then the Fighter S, I guess, the Sport. No, that's not right. Okay. The regular Bristol Fighter had 532. I need to read forward. 532 base Fighter. That's that V10. The S had 637 horsepower, and the Fighter T, which is pictured that you guys see there, had 1,026 horsepower, 225 miles an hour. But none of them were built. So that doesn't matter. It's irrelevant because then none got built. Like I said, they just announced it in 2006, but none got built, and then they shut up shop in 2011. Not a good looking vehicle. If they had come out with that 1,026 horsepower car and it performed well, you could actually put that power to the ground and not destroy the tires every time. Yeah, that could possibly be a hypercar. But the regular and the S, not hypercar at all. All right. This car was shared in the group on Facebook recently. I don't know if it was today or yesterday. Maserati MC12. This car is absolutely gorgeous. This is Maserati's version of the Ferrari Enzo that we just saw. They only made 50 of these, though, compared to the Enzo's 400. Same V12. It was tuned to 629 horsepower, though. Not as fast because it was probably heavier, and it only did 205 instead of 220. 0 to 62 was 3.8 seconds, though. And in 2004, for a car this big, this long, this heavy, yeah, that's kicking. That is kicking. It's like I said, though, I think this car is better looking than the Enzo. Fight me. I don't care. I think it's a better looking car. I really do. I know Maserati isn't known for their quality or making great vehicles. I know one of their later models is on the lemon list, so I want to stay away from that one. I'm not going to say any names. Find out for yourself. But this one's badass. Moving on. Obviously, Bugatti Veyron is going to be on this list. Oh, by the way, that Maserati is a hypercar, in my opinion. This is obviously a hypercar. This is the apps. This was the new benchmark when it came to ultra high end, ultra high horsepower, ultra fast cars. Came out in 2005. Quad turbo 8-liter W16 engine. If you don't know what a W16 engine is, it's pretty much 4 banks of 4 cylinders, and it looks like a W. So there you go. It's oversimplification, but that's what it is. This car hit 253 miles an hour. I mean, come on. The McLaren F1 hit 241, I want to say, in 95. And that record held until this car destroyed that record. Now, granted, it did have almost 400 more horsepower, but this car was also extremely heavy. This car weighed over 5,000 pounds. The F1 might have weighed between 25 and 3 grand. So, it didn't have any driver assists. It didn't have any crazy technology. It was just you and the car. That's it. So it was still very impressive that car hit that speed. But this car was also impressive being so heavy, so powerful, just so fast. And then later on, they made a 1,200 horsepower Super Sport that hit 268 average miles an hour. That's crazy. That was in 2010. Still not the most glamour, not the most beautiful vehicle. In my opinion, that's actually kind of ugly on the outside. Now, the interior is quite nice, but the outside's not very pleasant to look at. Definitely a hypercar, though. All right. Also in 05, I don't know if you guys have heard of this one either. I have the Gumpert Apollo. Gumpert. I don't know how the hell to pronounce it, but that's what it is. Had a twin turbo Audi 4.2 liter V8 like that Spiker, up to 700 horsepower though, and this thing hit 220. So, there's that. But in 2014, company filed bankruptcy because sales were shit, and nobody even knew what the hell they were. So they just the cars were probably too expensive. No one bought them. So yeah, that's what happens. You have to file bankruptcy. But the company is back under the name Apollo now. So they have made a comeback. So good on them. Not the most attractive vehicle. It does have gull wing doors, that hood-mounted air spoiler roof thingy, air scoop, whatever the hell you want to call it. That giant front lip. It's just a strange-looking vehicle. I don't care for the look of it, but it performed really, really well. Hypercar, yeah, I would say. Celine S7. I know I mentioned Celine earlier. Now, what Celine used to be exclusively about was just taking Mustangs and modifying them. You can only polish a turd so much, though. So this was Celine's first foray into an entirely new, minus the powertrain, completely new vehicle. It's an original from Celine, engineered in the UK, but it's an American company, which has been done before for GT. So don't give me any shit. Still an American car. First, when it first came out, it did not have a twin turbo 7-liter. It just had a regular 7-liter, and I want to say that 7-liter was GM sourced. I could be wrong about that. I don't know where they got the motors, but it was a 7-liter V8. I think it made 550 horsepower, performed well. And then later on, they slapped a couple turbos on that bitch, tuned it, and it made 760 and it claimed 248 miles an hour. Now, I want to say that's confirmed, but I don't know that for sure. Fast car, good looking car. It's American. It is a hypercar. It's expensive, but it is a hypercar. All right, Koenigsegg CCX. Some of you may not know what Koenigsegg is. Koenigsegg is a Swedish brand. Christian von Koenigsegg is its owner. When the car first came out, they only made 29 cars. They're all hand built, everything, literally everything, down to carbon fiber wheels, which they didn't start with carbon fiber, but they are now. The infotainment, the navigation, every single thing that Koenigsegg does is made in-house. It's huge respect for that. Now, the first CCX was a 806 horsepower twin supercharged 4.7-liter V8. You don't hear that very often. 245 miles an hour. From a brand new automotive manufacturer, they just hit the ground running, and they broke the record with a car that's going to be on this list in a little while, and I will point that out when we come back to it. It's a cool car. Always liked Koenigsegg's. The doors are insane. You have to see them for yourself, but it's kind of hard to explain, but they pivot outward and upward and kind of forward. You'll have to, like I said, just Google it if you want to know how they operate. They're cool ass doors. Probably the coolest doors ever in the industry. I'm going to be subjective here, or objective, I should say. SSC Ultimate Aero. Now, this is Shelby Supercars. This is no affiliation with Carroll Shelby. Completely different company. It is an American company. They're based out in California. I want to say they use a twin turbo Corvette engine, just modified to hell. 1,200 horsepower. It came out of the C5. No. Well, I guess they could have taken it out of the C5. Highly modified it, though. 1,200 horsepower, like I said. This car beat the Veyron, the regular Veyron, hitting 256. That was average, and that was Guinness World Record verified. And then Bugatti hit that 1,200 horsepower Veyron, hit 268. They said, "Man, we own the record," and they did for a while. This is a cool car, though. It's American. Uses just a dynamite Corvette V8. Obviously, highly modified. It's a good-looking vehicle. Hypercar, most certainly. It has those knockoff F1 doors, but who cares? I don't care. It doesn't matter. All right, the Lamborghini Reventon. I don't know how the hell to pronounce it. I've never heard anyone from Lamborghini say it. Don't care. This is just a modified Murcielago. I don't know. They did what? How many is that? 36 examples of this thing, coupes and roadsters. I don't know. They didn't really do a whole lot to distinguish it from the Murcielago, but it is a noticeable difference. They used a lot of carbon fiber. They modified the front and rear fascias. The interior is where it's at, though. That's where you can tell the cars apart. It was designed to resemble, I think, a stealth fighter, especially in the interior. It is a cool car. Do I consider it a hypercar? Probably not. More still in the supercar realm, if you ask me. Fast to sell, but no, still not a hypercar in my opinion. All right, here's another roof. 911 GT9R, based on the 997 GT3 RS. And like that one before it, they took a normal car, they modified the body, they bumped it up from 450 horsepower to 1136 horsepower, and claimed a 257-mile-an-hour top speed and a sub 3 seconds 0 to 62. Now, those are not verified; those are claimed. But if they're anywhere near it in 2008, I mean that's really good, especially since this car did have a flat six. It's not a V8, it's not a V12, none of that shit. So it's pretty crazy, pretty crazy, pretty crazy. Still not the best looking vehicle though. With those numbers, definitely hypercar. Keating TKR. I have heard of it. I know nothing about it. Absolutely nothing. I know zero about it. So we're just gonna briefly go through it. First seen in London in 06. Apparently it's been clocked at 260 miles an hour. So that is kicking it. Apparently 7-liter General Motors LS7 with 2 turbos slapped to it, and they claimed it made over 2,000 horsepower. That's really hard for me to believe. That's tough to do in a road legal vehicle that looks like this, and you can drive it. Well, I don't know if you could drive it every day, but I don't know. It's just hard for me to believe. But apparently, if they clocked it at 260, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, that's I'm not going to dwell on that one. Now, this one is one of my favorites. This is a Danish hypercar, and yes, don't get it twisted. This is a hypercar. Zenvo ST1. Now, believe it or not, I have seen one of these in person. It was at a car show, but I have seen one in person, and I really, 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 really like this car. It's very well designed. It looks really good. It is expensive for 2009, 800 grand. Crazy. Had over 1100 horsepower out of a 6.8 liter V8 and a claimed 233 miles an hour. Apparently, it is confirmed. They only have made 20 of these cars. And I guess what you see in the picture is the GT version, apparently good for over 1,200 horsepower. But, I mean, 20 cars, you can't be making money. If you are, you're charging way too much. But like I said, it's a cool car, definitely hypercar status. Can't argue. Absolutely not. It looks even better in person. So if you can find one, yeah, buy it if you can afford it. Now, this is not a production vehicle. This never made production. Jaguar CX-75. I guess this is their next foray and like a successor to the XJ220. But like I said, this is only a concept car. It has not been produced. It is a hybrid. I know nothing about performance numbers. I know nothing about what projected price. Like I said, it's just a concept. It's nice looking, I guess, but I don't know. It's been in a Bond movie, but yeah, it's probably never going to see the light of day ever. So I'm not even going to comment. Hypercar, not hypercar. I don't care. Lexus LFA. Now this car, I'm pretty lukewarm on it, and the only reason I say that is because I don't know. It was in development for so long. When it did finally come out, it was outdated already. I mean, as soon as it came to market, it was outdated. Yes, it had a very good V10. Yes, it sounded fantastic. Maybe one of the best sounding cars ever, behind the Aston Martin Valkyrie that I put in the group yesterday, I want to say. This car sounds incredible. It performed pretty decently. But like I said, it took so long to, actually get to market. All of the technology was just, it was outdated. It was obsolete. And I'm sorry, this car was 400 grand when it hit market, and it got destroyed by the Nissan GTR, which was, when it first came out, what, 70, 80 grand? So I'm sorry, you're just going to be hard pressed to convince me that this was the car of all cars, and I don't consider it a hypercar. I really don't. Um, no, maybe supercar, maybe, but definitely not a hypercar. And I don't hate the way it looks, but I don't love it either. Noble M600. Now these are British made. Um, I think they're good looking vehicles. I think they perform pretty well. They're expensive, about 400 grand when they first came out. And also, I'm sorry, but they have a Volvo engine in them. I can't get on board with that. Yes, granted, they made 671 horsepower with twin turbos, but still, you're going to brag at a car show about having a Volvo engine? No, I wouldn't. 225 miles an hour. I would say hypercar. Just the way they look, price wise, performance wise, yes, hypercar. I agree. Yep. Yes. Aston Martin 177. This is hypercar all the way. Love the way it looks. Love the way it sounded. It made crazy power. I think, before the Valkyrie and before the Vulcan, this was Aston Martin's most expensive car and their most powerful and their best looking and their best performing. I mean, this car was the car from Aston Martin. Used extensive use of carbon fiber. The body was changed to look like nothing else. 3.5 seconds to 62, 220 miles per hour top speed. $1.6 million at the time, and only 77 of them were made. Hence the name 177. Kick ass car. Don't care what color it is. I don't care. I would love to just stand by one, much less drive it. Crazy car. Absolutely. Probably one of the only front engine cars on this list that you will see. Very few are going to happen. All right. I mentioned Hennessy earlier. This is the Venom GT. If this car looks familiar, it should. It's just a stretched out Lotus Elise. That's literally what it is. Under the hood, it's not a lease at all. This is a twin turbo 7-liter V8, massively tuned to 1,471 horsepower. And it did. Oh, I'm sorry. It's an Exige. Excuse me. It's the exact same flipping car. 265 miles an hour. Confirmed. Crazy time. 1,287 foot-pounds of torque. And I don't say pound-feet because it sounds stupid. But anyway, like I said, this is a not an original vehicle, but it is a highly modified Lotus. But it's still cool. You will see another Hennessy on this list shortly. Guaranteed. All right, here's another Koenigsegg. This is called the Agera, successor to the CCX. This one had 953 horsepower out of a twin turbo V8. The Agera R had 1,156. And the 1.1 had 1,360 horsepower. Now, the 1.1 means, it stands for, it had 1 horsepower per kilogram that the car weighed. So it had 1,360 horsepower and it weighed 1,360 kilograms. 1-to-1 weight to power ratio. That's insane. Unheard of. But it's only in kilos, not in pounds, which we should be going by kilos anyway. So kilos. And then the Agera RS, which is the car that broke the production car speed record, had 1,176 horsepower. It was just geared much differently, had crazy aero, and it was capable of some crazy, crazy speeds. I think the average was two. I want to say 273. I want to say that's what they broke the record with, was an average of 273. Again, I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. So there's that. Still a kick-ass looking car. Like I said, I love Koenigsegg's. I don't The Regera. I don't know that car will be on this list. I wasn't a huge fan of it, but this one, yes, I definitely was. Lamborghini Aventador. All right, the successor to the Murcielago. Not a hypercar, although it was quite a bit more powerful, a little bit faster. Looked a lot like it. I don't consider it a hypercar. Still don't. I like it. I don't consider it a hypercar. I just don't. There you go. All right, another Pagani. This is the Huayra, the successor for the Zonda. Used AMG engines still. Only 100 were made, as AMG would only supply 100 V12s. The Huayra BC made 750 horsepower. Still not the most powerful cars, not the fastest. They were supposedly able to do 238. I don't know if that's been confirmed or debunked. They were a little bit more subdued than the Zonda. I still like them. They're cool cars. The interiors are still insane. They still sound well. They perform. So I mean, yeah, definitely a hypercar. The dumbest name for a hypercar ever, in my opinion, the Ferrari LaFerrari. Ferrari the Ferrari. That's so stupid. It did beat the shit out of the Enzo, though, which was the goal. This one is a hybrid. Unfortunately, 936 combined horsepower, 500 of them were made, only 217 miles an hour, though. So not as fast on the top end as the Enzo, but it did outperform it everywhere else. Also in price, it was like $1 million. But anyway, direct competition for the dumbly named LaFerrari is the McLaren P1, also a hybrid, made over 900 horsepower with both twin turbo V8 and electric motors. Top speed of 217, so the exact same as the LaFerrari. Only thing about this car was it was stupidly difficult to drive. There were 375 made. I don't know. I'm lukewarm on the styling. They all McLarens, had this kind of front end and styling and all that around this time periods. I don't know. I'm just kind of lukewarm on it. Definitely a hypercar. I'm not disputing that fact, but I don't know about the looks. Just not a huge fan. All right, and then the third competitor in this hypercar hybrid, if you will, class. It's a Porsche 918. This is the only one of the three I've seen in person. I know there's a LaFerrari up in Franklin. I have not seen it. But I have seen one of these. Crazy car. 887 horsepower. Less powerful than both of the others, but outperformed it. I don't know how Porsche did it. Outperformed both of the other two by a lot. And it's heavier. But Porsche somehow found a way to outperform the LaFerrari and the P1 by a lot. I hate to admit it. And apparently this is the successor for the Carrera GT. I didn't know that. 211 miles an hour. So not as fast on the top end, but getting there, yes, it's faster. And it handles better and it brakes better. The electric only system is better. So yeah, I mean, it's just better overall. Expensive. They were all around $1 million, brand new. Okay, the Aranera Husaria. I know I did not say either one of those correctly. I don't think I've ever heard of this thing. We've looked at 39 photos, and I haven't. This is the first one I have not heard of or seen. So I'm doing pretty good. This is Polish. I did not know that Poland made up any cars. So there you go. 217 miles an hour claimed. I know nothing else about it. That's all the information that is in this thing. Doesn't say what motor it uses, price, acceleration, top end, nothing. So moving on. All right, so this is the successor, or the sequel, if you will, to the Veyron, the Chiron from Bugatti. Much better looking vehicle, actually. It's far better. It's more polished. It's just a good looking vehicle. Same quad turbo W16 engine. It's just been tweaked a little bit to 1500 horsepower. They restricted the top speed to 261. They said that the Chiron is capable of 288 miles an hour, 0 to 62 in 2.5. Now, in 2019, Volkswagen released a slightly modified Chiron. It did not hit 305. It hit 303. And it did not do 2 runs in the opposite direction. So, it did not get the Guinness Book of World Records production car record, but it did hit 303. It was a confirmed 303. So technically, I suppose that is the production car record, but it's not Guinness Book, because in order to be Guinness Book confirmed, you have to do 2 runs in the opposite direction, and they average those 2 runs. They did not do that, so they don't own the record. So this is incorrect. I'm right, you're wrong, you suck. Moving on. Beautiful car, definitely a hypercar. All right, I mentioned Apollo earlier. This car is the Apollo that came back after Gumpert went bankrupt. So this is the car that they just brought back in 2016. Now, it's definitely more radical than the car you saw earlier by a lot. Decent looking, I suppose. Apparently over 1,000 horsepower out of a 4-liter V8. Holy crap. That's a lot. 2.9 to 60. That's fast. I'm sure it's expensive. I don't know about top speed. It's interesting. Definitely a hypercar. Yeah, the Koenigsegg Regera. All right. I figured it was probably on the list, but I wasn't 100% sure. All right. So this thing is a hybrid. 1,500 horsepower, 1,475 foot-pounds of torque. It did not have a traditional transmission. I don't know how it works. I don't know how the gearbox or whatever the hell you want to call it works. I'm not even going to try to get into it. It went from 93 to 155 miles an hour in 3.9 seconds. That's faster than most cars go 0 to 60. And it's harder to do that at those higher speeds, accelerate that fast. They only made 80, which is a lot for Koenigsegg because they hand build every single one. And like I said, everything's made in-house. So 80 cars a year. Well, that's overall production, and it was probably only made for 1 year. So yeah, 80 a year. That's a lot. 255 miles an hour. So it's not as fast as the Bugatti with 1,500 horse, but this is a hybrid, and they're typically not as fast. Like I said earlier, I'm not an overly huge fan of the way this car looks. Still has those crazy Koenigsegg doors, but I don't know. I was never a huge fan of this car. Definitely a hypercar nonetheless. All right, Rimac. I mentioned this earlier. They now own Bugatti. This is a fully electric hypercar. Yes, you heard me right. I used electric and hypercar in the same sentence, and this is no bullshit. It makes over 1,000 horsepower, and I know that Teslas do it. The Lucid Air is coming out with one. I know that the Hummer, the GMC Hummer makes over 1,000 horsepower. I know all of that. I know that. But this thing is ultra light. It is all-wheel drive. It goes 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds. It does 221 miles an hour silently. It is crazy fast. and it's good looking. It's just I can't, where the hell are these made? Croatia, I believe these are from. Believe it or not. Yeah, I'm right about that. These are Croatian supercars, hypercars. Sorry, I got it twisted. Hypercar. All right, SSC from earlier, Shelby supercars. This is the successor to the Ultimate Aero. This is called the Tuatara, whatever the hell you want to call it. Originally aimed at 256 miles an hour. They have recently done their top speed run, and they own the record, actually. I want to say they averaged 278 miles per hour. In an American V8 twin turbo powered, I want to say it's still a Corvette, they own the production car speed record. 100 cars made, 1.6 million each. Pretty sure this says 276. I think that's wrong. I think it's 278 because they average them. That's super fast. The car is insanely good looking. I haven't seen the interior. Definitely a hypercar. No disputing that fact whatsoever. All right, McLaren Senna, named after the famous racing driver. Car's insane. Super lightweight, super fast, super powerful. Out of a 4-liter twin turbo V8, 800 horsepower. Not the most powerful, but still, again, it performs really, really well overall. There is a track-only GTR version, 825 horsepower. Yeah, it's good looking. This is a hypercar. I would of the McLarens, I would call this a hypercar before the P1. Crazy expensive though. Crazy expensive. Ayrton Senna, that's his name. Okay, I mentioned this car earlier too, the Aston Martin Valkyrie. Incredibly insane car. Incredibly insane sounding, performing. This has a naturally aspirated 6.5-liter V12, all motor, 1,000 horsepower. Oh, it's a hybrid. My bad. Never mind. Hybrid system that comes from Rimac, whatever how you want to call it. I thought this was not a hybrid. That's my bad. But still, I don't care. Crazy car. 150 units are planned. $3.2 million each. And then an AMR version, which is Aston Martin Racing Pro, which you see in the picture, 1,100 horsepower, recalibrated hybrid system. Supposedly going to hit over 250 miles an hour, and they're only going to make 25, costing another $1 million on top of the 3.2 for the regular version. So crazy, absolutely crazy. So only like the 0.5% in the world will ever own one. Hypercar, most certainly. All right, this is the Mercedes Project One. This is also a hybrid. Douchebag Lewis Hamilton was the one that unveiled it at the Frankfurt Motor Show in 2017. It's taken forever for them to get this thing going. It's actually really, really weird. Like the powertrain, 1.6 liter V6 hybrid, but it makes 1,000 horsepower. That's insane. 0 to 124 in 6 seconds and tops over 218, which is promised from Mercedes AMG. $2.4 million in this country. 1,100 people want the car, but only 275 units are to be built. So there's going to be a lot of disappointed people. And Lewis Hamilton, you're a douche. I hate you, and I hope you never win another F1 race, which I know you will, but you're still a douche. This is the McLaren Speedtail. This is, I guess, McLaren's second attempt at an F1, like a McLaren F1, because it has that center driving position, has that crazy swoopy rear end. Those front wheels are terrible. 106 to be made. aiming at 250 miles an hour, which isn't really overly impressive anymore. Twin turbo V8 hybrid power, almost 3 mil each, already sold out, blah, blah, blah. Yes, that's the hypercar. Rimac Concept 2. Now, this car is not as good looking as the Concept 1, but it's going to be much faster. It is already sold out of the 150 it intends to make. 0 to 60 is claimed to be 1.85 seconds, 0 to 104.3. It supposedly makes over 1,900 horsepower and almost 1,700 foot-pounds of torque. 260 almost miles an hour. Yeah, it is Croatian. I was right about that. 2.2 million each. 80% charge in less than 30 minutes. 404 miles of range in a car that makes almost 2,000 horsepower. That's pretty goddamn good. But like I said, this one isn't as good looking as the Concept one, but much, much, much faster. Probably much, much more expensive too. So I don't remember if we saw the price on the Concept one. Don't care. Pininfarina Battista. Now, Pininfarina is a design house that Ferrari draws a lot of their inspiration. They get a lot of their designs from them. Pininfarina has done their own vehicles before, but this is, I think, their first attempt at a fully original vehicle. This is a fully electric hypercar. It's going to be a 4-motor, 1,900 horsepower, 1,700 foot-pound, sub 2 seconds to 62, sub 12 seconds to 186, and a 217 mile an hour top speed. Definite hypercar. It's mostly shared powertrain from the Rimac Concept 2, hence the numbers. A lot of these companies outsource powertrains. It's fine. 150 to be built, 2 mil piece. Good looking vehicle. It looks a lot like SF90 Ferrari hybrid now. Whatever. I don't remember the hell the name of it is. Alphanumeric shit. I hate them. Good looking car. Definitely a hypercar. Absolutely. There it is. SF90. Yes, I got it right. This is Ferrari's new hybrid. Definitely a hypercar. Has a 3.9 liter V8 with 3 electric motors. Makes 1,000 horsepower. 2.5 to 62. They don't have a production limit, so as many as they can build and as many as they can sell. I don't know what the price is going to be, though. Probably at least $1 million, I would imagine. I'm not a ultra huge fan of the way it looks, but definitely a hypercar. Bugatti Divo. Of course, it's a hypercar. 40 made, 5.8 mil each. Same V6, the same W16. Speed isn't even that high. 236. Oh, it's to make it more lively on track. So they limited it to 236. That's dumb. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not an overly huge fan of it, and the name sucks. But it's a modified Chiron. So there you go. And this is the Hennessy I mentioned that you were going to hear about when we were talking about that Venom. This is the Venom F5, and this is Hennessy's first fully original hypercar that they are designing, they are building in-house, and this is the car that they're going to use to attempt a new top speed record. They want to go over 300 miles an hour, and they have to do it twice. Bugatti did not do it, so they don't have the production car record. Get your facts right. Whoever the hell did this stupid list that I'm talking about, they didn't get the thing. They're only going to build 24 of them, 1.6 mil each. They're going to have 1,600 horsepower. They're going to weigh less than 3,000 pounds. That's a light car for having that much power. Considering that Chiron makes 15 and they weigh over 445, maybe 5,000 pounds. So that's crazy. I watched a video that a physicist did analyzing this car, and all of the math. I don't understand all the math. Don't ask me to explain it. But what he came up with, that this car is able to do over 300 miles an hour fairly easily with coefficient of drag, um, all the aerodynamics, power to weight, all that stuff. The biggest hitch is going to be the tires. If Michelin or one of these other major manufacturers can come up with a tire that can withstand the G forces over 300 miles an hour, it's able to do it. So hopefully they're able to find a tire that can hold up for that much time. And they do actually set the production car record, because I'm honestly tired of that Bugatti getting so much accolade because they didn't set the record. They hit 303, yeah, but that's not a record. They only did it one way. It's not a record. Get it right. Koenigsegg Jesko Absolute. Yes, it's pronounced Jesko. And Jesko is Christian's father's name. That's what this car is named after. And this is their car that they're going to go after the 300 mile an hour top speed target. This also has 1,600 horsepower. I don't know what kind of engine it's using. Twin turbo V8. All right. 1,280 horsepower running on regular full premium gas. And then on E85, that's when you're getting your 1,600 horsepower. And then your peak torque at 1106. The theoretical top speed is 330. I highly doubt it, considering that Bugatti only hit 303. I seriously doubt this thing will hit 330 unless it's geared properly. And again, the issues with the tires. So I highly doubt it. Maybe in a wind tunnel, but the tires have nothing to do with it then. You can wind tunnel up to 500 miles an hour. I don't care about that. Can your tires do it? All right. This is I don't know how to pronounce it. I've seen it. I don't know how to pronounce it. Zinger. I don't know. This is a fully, oh no, this is a hybrid. Okay. 2.88 liter V8. That is a tiny V8. 2 turbos. Apparently revs to 11,000 RPM, being that small it can. 2 electric motors. Apparently makes 1,250 horsepower. 1.9 to 62, 268 top speed. Doubt it. It's light. 80 examples to be produced. Over $1 million per. So there you go. It's not a good looking vehicle. And I want to say the seats are like jet fighter style, like one behind the other. So that's weird. I've seen videos of this car. It's just a goofy looking thing. I don't care for it. And then Glickenhaus SCG007. Now this car was originally just race only. SCG stands for Scuderia Cameron Glickenhaus. That's the dude's name. This is an American car, believe it or not, with that kind of name. Good looking car. I've seen them, in race trim, in road trim. They're good looking cars. Hybrid, I want to say, hybrid. Makes over 1,000 horsepower between the twin turbo 3-liter V6 and the hybrid system. 2 mil a piece, only 20 road going versions. Like I said, they're good looking cars, on and off track. So hopefully I'll see one in person maybe one day. Doubt it, but we shall see. Lotus Evija. This is a hybrid, I want to say. Maybe full electric. Is it? It is fully electric. Holy crap. Okay. Yeah, it's full electric. 2,000 horsepower claim. 2 seats, 130 each, 2.1 million each. Good looking car. Probably one of the best looking vehicles Lotus has ever designed, and Hopefully, it will be, as fast as they say. Hopefully, all the numbers that they claim will be, yeah, yeah. 18-minute charge time to give you a 250-mile range. It's a little heavy, almost 3,700 pounds, but I like it. I really do. It's a very, very good looking vehicle. I don't like electric vehicles either. I know you're rolling your eyes at me, but I like it. I just do. So get over it. Yes. Aston Martin AMRB 003. Get over yourselves and name your vehicles. I think they have since then. I think this is called the Valhalla. This one is probably the concept, but I'm pretty sure this car is called the Valhalla. It's not as good looking as the Valkyrie or the Vulcan. I don't know why the Vulcan's not on this list. It may still be. No, we've already talked about it. I'm gonna show you a picture of the Vulcan because it's insane. I want to say this one's a hybrid. I don't think this one's electric. Hopefully not. Anyway, it says more than likely 1,000 horsepower plus. Okay, yeah, this one might be a hybrid because it's would place it alongside next generation versions of the likes of the P1 LaFerrari and Porsche 918 Spider. Yeah, probably a hybrid. Price wise, probably over $1 million. Like I said, I don't like it as much as the Valkyrie, but it's still pretty nice. All right, this is the Gordon Murray Automotive T50. I know this car is getting all the press. I think it's ugly as shit. He came up with the design for the McLaren F1. I understand that this has the center driving position like the McLaren F1. I understand all that. I just think the car is ugly. And if I had a picture of the rear, I would show you the picture of the rear because it's even worse. I don't care what kind of engine it's got. I don't care how well it performs. The car's ugly. 650 horsepower, 4-liter naturally aspirated V12, 12,100 RPM redline, which is insane. It's Cosworth derived powertrain. They make excellent engines. Only 100 to be built, $3 million each. Don't care. It's ugly. I don't care. Ugly. The fifth Koenigsegg on this list, the Gamera, is the only car on this list with 4 seats, too, by the way. This is a 4-seat saloon. No, not a saloon car because only 2 doors. It's a 2+2, if you will. It has a 2-liter twin turbo 3-cylinder, but it makes 608 horsepower. And it also has a hybrid system that bumps it up to 1,700 horsepower. If you can believe that. Holy balls. 1.9 to 62 with 4 seats. The electric motor makes it all-wheel drive, and that's the first from Koenigsegg. 4,154 pounds though. That's very, very heavy. But I don't care. A car looks cool. It's 2+2, makes crazy power. It'll go over 250 miles an hour. I think I've read. And in a 4-seat car, that's bonkers. So that's I'm actually kind of surprised I did that whole list in under an hour and a half. I'm proud of myself. That's the list. Those are the best hypercars since 1985, 86, something like that. They did leave some out. Actually, that reminds me. I'm gonna look up the Aston Martin Valkyrie or the Vulcan because that should have been on that list. Bear with me for one moment. Vulcan. I don't know why they forgot about this damn car because this car is insane. Images, please. That's a good one. No, I'm going to use the white one. Yeah, white one. Focus. You guys will get the picture. Share screen again. All right, this is the Aston Martin Vulcan. Make me small. There we go. A little bit smaller anyway. Let me make this bigger so you guys can get a better idea. It's a little better. That's the Aston Martin Vulcan. This was their second hypercar, if you will, after the 177. This was just on a different level. I know this was more race focused, but I want to say you could drive it on the road. I could be wrong. Might be. Don't care. Incredibly insane car. I really enjoy it, but I don't know why this wasn't on that list, because it's a crazy hypercar, makes crazy power. It sounds incredible, looks incredible all around. Just a good car. But they didn't want to share it with you guys, so I did. Screw them. You deserve to see it. That's gonna do it for the list. I don't have a wheel talk question. I can't ask myself a wheel talk question. I've tried in the past and it didn't work out too well. But like I said, I don't have a question. I'm gonna work on getting some people come on this damn thing in the next coming weeks. I know I have 2 people that do want to come or are interested in coming on. I just gotta line it up with them. One is gonna be difficult. I might have to pre-record the interview and then just play it for you guys on here. I might have to do it that way with him. And then the other guy, I'm not 100% sure what his schedule's like either. I might have to do the same thing with him. But I do have some prospects in the works. They're not quite as famous as Andy Pilgrim, but they're fairly well known around the area. They're a local both. So, yeah, I'll make that happen pretty soon, hopefully. Hopefully work doesn't interfere too much with it. But that's probably how I'm going to have to handle those 2. Anyway. If that is, yeah, fine, get over it. That's gonna do it for this week. Again, I apologize for last week. The Wi-Fi was not cooperating from 15 feet away. Now I'm 2 feet away. This is how I'm gonna do it from now on. And then again for the echo, like I said, I just don't have enough stuff to fill the space, so I have an echo. So get over it. I don't care. Echo. But yeah. Hour and a half. That's not too bad. That was a long list, but I breezed through it. I only didn't know 1 car on that list. Proud of myself. Polish. They suck. But yeah, that's going to do it. No wheel talk. But I'll talk to you guys next week. Everybody have fun.